Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane. Namaste Saraswatundeve, Kauravani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatyade Sadharane. Today we're going to read from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 10, text number 11. Chapter 10 is called the Opulence of the Absolute. And this is one of the 4 Chatura Sloki verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which summarize everything that's in the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita is a summary of all the Vedic literature. So if you know this verse, you know at least 1/4 of all the Vedic literature. Actually, know the conclusion of the Vedic literature. Tesham eva nukampartam ahamaganajam tamaha na shamyam yatma bhavashto jnana dipena bhashvataha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Prabhupada's purport: when Lord Chaitanya was in Benares promulgating the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thousands of people were following him. Prakashananda Saraswati, a very influential and learned scholar in Benares at that time, derided Lord Chaitanya for being a sentimentalist. Sometimes Mayavadi philosophers criticize the devotees because they think that most of the devotees are in the darkness of ignorance and are philosophically naive sentimentalists. Actually, that is not a fact. There are very many learned scholars who have put forward the philosophy of devotion. That even if a devotee does not take advantage of the literatures or of his spiritual master, if he is sincere in his devotional service, he is helped by Krishna himself within his heart. So the devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness cannot be without knowledge. The only qualification is that one carry out devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. The Mayavadi philosophers think that without discriminating, one cannot have pure knowledge. For them, this answer is given by the Supreme Lord. Those who are engaged in pure devotional service, even though they be without sufficient education and even without sufficient knowledge of the Vedic principles, are still helped by the Supreme God, as stated in this verse. The Lord tells Arjuna that basically there is no possibility of understanding the supreme truth, the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simply by speculating. For the supreme truth is so great that it is not possible to understand him or achieve him simply by making a mental effort. Man can go on speculating for several millions of years, and if he is not devoted, if he is not a lover of the supreme truth, he will never understand Krishna or the supreme truth. Only by devotional service is the supreme truth Krishna pleased, and by his inconceivable energy, he can reveal himself to the heart of the pure devotee. The pure devotee always has Krishna within his heart, and with the presence of Krishna, which just like the sun, the darkness of ignorance is at once dissipated. This is the special mercy rendered to the pure devotee by Krishna. Due to the contamination of material association, through many, many millions of births, one's heart is always covered with the dust of materialism. But when one engages in devotional service and constantly chants Hare Krishna, the dust quickly clears and one is elevated to the platform of pure knowledge. The ultimate goal of Vishnu can be attained only by this chant, by devotional service, and not by mental speculation or argument. Pure devotee does not have to worry about the material necessities of life. He need not be anxious, because when he removes the darkness from his heart, everything is provided automatically by the Supreme Lord, was pleased by the loving devotional service of the devotee. This is the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. By studying Bhagavad Gita, one can become a soul completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord and engage himself in pure devotional service. As the Lord takes charge, one becomes completely free from all materialistic endeavors. So the verse again. Tesham eva anukambharatam ahama gyana jam tamaha nacham yamya prabhavishto gyana dipena bhashvataha. To show them special mercy, I dwell in the hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Taramane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatyade Siddharane. Here it mentions about mental speculation. Srila Prabhupada writes in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that religion without knowledge is sentiment or fanaticism, and knowledge without religion is simply mental speculation. In other words, the knowledge we have should be applied in our existence. Otherwise, then it's simply on the mental platform. And on the mental platform, one can go for millions of years. Pantasti koti vatsara sampragamyo vayoro tapi manasam munipungavanam sopyastya prapadapsimnya pichintitatve govindam adi purushang tamahang bhajami. One can go for very millions of years trying to figure out what is real and what is not real. Or one can try to pacify the mind by drilling the respiration by pranayama to try to understand things more clearly. But even after such endeavor, Lord Brahma says, one still will not reach the tip of the toe of Lord Krishna. Therefore, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking to Ramananda Roy and asking Ramananda Roy, what is the process by which one can become Krishna conscious? Ramananda Roy began with the Varnashram system. Varnashram Acharyataha, Purushena Pumakpaman, Vishnu Aradhyate Hanta. That one can worship Lord Vishnu through the Varna and Ashram system. And indeed, the Varna and Ashram system is the system of civilized human beings. But just by following Varna and Ashram, one will not necessarily fully develop one's Krishna consciousness, because Varnashram begins with simply karma yoga. Karma yoga begins with the Shudras, those who are in ignorance, and at least know they're in ignorance. But they have enough knowledge, they can discern who has knowledge. In other words, the culture is such that even one does not have knowledge, one can appreciate those who have knowledge. And as in modern society, if you don't go along with the modern society, then you starve. It's simple. At least that's how they're trying to evolve modern society, that everyone is dependent upon who's ever leading society, however blind they may be. Everyone is obliged to follow them because they basically can control the economic situation in the world. And therefore, anyone who controls the economy, they also control the sense gratification. Similarly, in the Vedic culture, it's arranged in such a way that you have to do some service if you want to eat. Even the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, anad bhavati bhutani parjana anasambhava jagna bhavati parjanyo jagna karma smudhava. That all living entities subsist on food grains. So basically speaking, we're not working for pieces of paper or for digits in a bank account. We're working to get food, basically speaking. Other things like sleeping or mating or even defending, these are all based upon at least that we have a body which is surviving by eating food. Even in the spiritual world, Srimati Radharani, one of her principal services is eating. And, well, not eating, it's cooking for Krishna, which he also takes the remnants of food, and that comes from Krishna. But basically speaking, she was blessed by Durvasa Muni, although she doesn't need Durvasa Muni's blessings, to cook in such a way as to make Krishna healthy and strong and to live a long life. Because Krishna, his destiny, we could say, is that he's going to live a very long life, like forever. And even without Srimati Radharani's cooking, there's no instance of, well, Krishna is still going to be healthy. But he becomes healthier when he eats Srimati Radharani's food. And therefore, cooking and eating is a very important part of the eternal life of the Vrijabasis, along with dancing and making flower garlands and talking about Krishna. So in this world also, although it's a perverted reflection of the real world, here eating is a very important part of our existence. But eating comes, as Krishna says, the food that we have comes from rain. Without rain, nothing grows. And rain comes from the performance of sacrifice. And sacrifice is born of man's prescribed duties. So in the Varna and Ashram system, everyone has a duty to provide either the ingredients or the mantras or the arrangements for sacrifice to Vishnu. And although in one sense it's a mechanical process, still the idea is to focus the attention on Vishnu. But because it's a mechanical process, it generally lacks, unless the performers are particularly qualified, it lacks the devotion. It's usually meant for material gain. Therefore, Krishna says that the four kinds of persons who approach him, who are four persons in the Varnashram system, Chatura Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritina Arjuna, Arta Jignasya Artarati Gyani Chabharatar Shiva. The four kinds of pious people approach me, namely those who are inquisitive. I'm sorry, but that's pretty high to begin with. Those who are suffering, those who want some comfort, a nice material existence, those who are inquisitive, and he was searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. So these are progressive. It's expected that by following the Varna and Ashram system, one will gradually be elevated, if not in one lifetime, generally through many lifetimes, to the platform of ultimately becoming a Brahmin. A Brahmin means Brahmajata Titi Brahmanaha, one who knows he's not the body, like the four Kumaras. Four Kumaras are the topmost neophyte devotees. At least before they met Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, they were considered to be neophyte devotees. Because anyone who follows the Varnashram system, the aim is Jagavai Vishnu, that they're some kind of devotees, but they're materialistic devotees. And similarly, our progress in Krishna consciousness is also through the stages of purification of karma yoga and jnana yoga. In other words, when we first approach Krishna consciousness, it's generally out of distress. And distress is caused by sense gratification. Although in modern society, people think sense gratification is the cause of happiness, but in the Vedic conception, sense gratification is the cause of distress. Therefore, Krishna says that sense gratification, unrestricted, unauthorized sense gratification is the greatest enemy. When Arjuna asks that I know what my duty is, but somehow or another I don't follow it, can you tell me why? And Krishna says, because you're being forced by lust and anger, which is producing illusion, which is covering you. And therefore you're being forced to act in ways that you don't want, that you might not want to act if you had enough intelligence to understand what the results of your activities would be. Therefore, Krishna advises Arjuna that he should follow regular principles. So that's called, for instance, we're following sadhana bhakti as our process of not only purification, but spiritual elevation. In other words, the best principle and all principles are all based on Krishna's mercy. No one makes any progress without Krishna's mercy. Now, how we go about trying to get Krishna's mercy, that depends upon the knowledge we have. Or the fact that we don't try to get Krishna's mercy, we act independently, that also depends upon our understanding of reality. But if Krishna is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as he claims him to be, and then in the 8th verse of this, let's say 8, 9, 10, in the 8th verse of the Chatur Sloki, Aham Sarvasya Prava Matak Sarvam Pravartate. If he's actually the source of everything, then he must be the source of all mercy. In other words, we can't demand Krishna reveal himself to us. If our aim is to become conscious of Krishna, we can't demand that Krishna, you must demand, I've done so much service for you today. I did 3 RTs, I gave 2 classes, I ate prasadam. Now, where are you? No, Krishna he's not interested in coming before us on demand, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and our normal relationship with him should be based upon love. In the spiritual world, everyone serves Krishna out of love, and Krishna is able to reciprocate with everyone out of his own love for everyone. But in the material world, we have a choice. Either we can love Krishna or we could love the material energy. That's our choice. Anyone in the material world, they've come here because they have some attachment to the material energy to one degree or another. And they may even have some attachment to Krishna, but that may not be, sometimes it may be greater than their attachment to the material energy, sometimes less, sometimes the same. But as long as we have attachment to the material energy, even if we want to serve Krishna, we have to do it within the material conception of existence. And generally, the material nature tells us that if you do that, then you can become free from distress, or you can live relatively comfortably in the material energy, or you can understand how the material energy works, such ways to avoid the problems, most of the problems that come with living in the material world. And you can perhaps understand how to get liberation from birth, death, old age, disease, and all their distresses. But still, Krishna will remain far away. Unless we want Krishna, then unless we want to develop our relation with Krishna, then why will Krishna reveal himself? That would make any sense. If we want something other than Krishna, then Krishna gives us whatever we want. If we deserve it other than him, But if we want him, then we have to show how we want him. And we do that by using or desiring to use his energies in his service. Of course, we may not know Krishna that well. We may not experience what the end result of pure devotional service is, but therefore Krishna consciousness is a question of also utilizing our intelligence to try to understand things. What is our best option? Therefore, Varnashram Dharma was there because people could see that, basically speaking, it was a peaceful society. And people were more or less, they got their needs of life. Their superiors didn't exploit them, but protected them. The whole world was more or less full of different types of opulence, and the opportunity for spiritual advancement was there for those who wanted it. At the same time, family life was relatively happy. The material energy worked sequentially. Seasons came on time. They provided the necessities of life to all the living entities. If there was conflict, the ordinary people didn't have to get involved in the conflicts. They were fought by persons who actually knew the science of fighting, etc. So relatively speaking, in other ages, material energy didn't seem as bad as it seems in Kali Yuga. It seemed that there are other resources to go to before one actually approached Krishna with feeling. But in Kali Yuga, there are no shelters, practically speaking. If there's shelter, the shelter is people who are serving Krishna and encouraging us to do the same with our lives. Because after all, we're trying to get Krishna's mercy, but it's not that if others get Krishna's mercy, then I automatically also get Krishna's mercy. That if others are sincerely serving Krishna, then I automatically get the results of their activities. I may get some result by association, but after all, Krishna consciousness is so subtle that I voluntarily have to develop my determination to serve Krishna. We have in the scriptures those who serve Krishna by offering prayers like Daksha Maharaj. So Daksha had a career as the head of the universe, head of the Prajapatis, a little bit, not always so special, or we could say straightforward. After all, he offended Lord Shiva in the Daksha Yagya, which is not exactly what you expect of a great devotee of Krishna, offend the greatest devotee. And he had to go through quite great problems, like having his head cut off and being replaced by that of a goat. Not exactly what you want to put on Facebook. I just got a new facelift, and I think my digestion has increased greatly. And what do you think of my horns? No, it's rather embarrassing for the head of the universe to have the head of a goat. In any case, after leaving his body, because time and our conception of time is different from eternal time, sometime later he took birth as Daksha again, where he offered Krishna wonderful prayers. After all, if we wrote some offering in some Vyas Puj book or some offering to Krishna poetry, it's unlikely it'd wind up in Srimad Bhagavatam. You'd have to be a very special writer to get your prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam. But his prayers were in the Bhagavatam, and I don't remember which canto they're in. In any case, he offered beautiful prayers. So Krishna was, I think it's the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he offered beautiful prayers, and Krishna came riding on the back of Garuda, along with the demigods. And Daksha was so overwhelmed with ecstasy, he could hardly stand up. Now, this is something we can all look forward to, having the personal darshan of Krishna and feeling so much ecstasy that we could hardly stand up. And after Krishna came personally, along with the demigods, he asked Daksha, what can I do for you? You're offering these prayers, I'd like to give you benediction. So he prayed that he could have unlimited sex life. He didn't pray to go to the Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka to become a pure devotee. Even after experiencing the ecstasy of Krishna's presence, because his original determination was for doing his duty as a Prajapati, for expanding the population of the universe, that's what he asked for. So we cannot be so sure that just by having good association, which we need good association, that's sufficient. We also have to learn how to take advantage of good association and apply it within our lives. Because as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he asks us to fix our minds upon him and engage all our intelligence in him, and thus we'll live with him always without a doubt. So we can understand that real mercy that Krishna is going to give us is not the mercy of fulfilling some material desire, but the mercy to give us the intelligence so that we can become more steady and more enthusiastic about our devotional service. That's the intelligence that Krishna can give us. Everything else he gives us is a distraction from our eventual ability to actually, within our heart, live with Krishna. As we're transcendental to the material nature, so the spiritual world is also transcendental. The whole spiritual world with Krishna and his associates and their pastimes are all eternally going on, and we can join them within our heart if we so desire, even in this lifetime. But then we have to focus our attention and give our love to Krishna in order to become gradually eligible to leave our material conceptions, our material attachments, our material perceptions, and be willing to enter into a relation with Krishna and his devotees. Everything in this world is a practice in order to internalize our relation with Krishna and externalize our relation with Krishna through devotional service. Internalize our relation with Krishna through Krishna consciousness and externalize our relation with Krishna through devotional service. Krishna sees our sincerity by how steady and how enthusiastic we perform our sadhana and our service. It just so happens Krishna lives with us eternally. Now it's almost Christmas, and they're always telling children about how Santa Claus is watching them. I don't know in other cultures, but in America, they used to say that Santa Claus, he knows if you're good or bad. You better not shout, you better not cry. Santa Claus is coming to town. He knows if you are good or bad. So be good for goodness sake. So Santa Claus, I never met him, but I haven't read much about him, except from what I've been told. Doesn't seem to have a very deep history. In any case, what they're describing really is the supersoul. The supersoul knows exactly what we're doing. He's not judging us, trying to figure out how to get even with us because we left him. And therefore he's angry with us eternally. And he's going to get even one way or another. We make the wrong move. And then Krishna tells Indra to throw a thunderbolt at us because we're nasty. We've been bad. No, Krishna is very kind. He loves everyone. But he says that he's neutral in the material world. He's trying to tell everyone, especially externally, because we become a little deaf internally. He's trying to tell everyone what's good for them. He's trying to tell everyone that he's there. He's not some faraway God who has no feelings, no connection with the world. He's some old man who's become more or less, due to old age, he can't really think properly anymore. He has Alzheimer's disease or something. And therefore, he'd like to help people, but he doesn't even know who he is, what to speak of anyone else. That he has no real connection with us. So the idea that God not only has a connection with us, but he has a connection with us eternally. He knows everything that we're thinking, everything we're doing, not only in this lifetime, but in all lifetimes. And he's trying to encourage us externally through Guru and Sadhu and Shastra to do things where he can give us his mercy, that he can reveal himself, because he is mercy himself. He is knowledge. He's the object of knowledge. He's the goal of knowledge. He's seated in everyone's heart. His transcendental form is the source of all wonderful beauty, all wonderful sounds, all wonderful tastes, all wonderful smells, all wonderful everything. And we can't really see properly. We can't hear properly. We can't smell properly. We can't taste properly without being associated with Krishna. The closer we come to Krishna, then the closer we actually get real experience. And the further away from Krishna, the more our experience becomes dulled by coverings. Everyone is always experiencing Krishna. There's nothing but Krishna. But the further away the further away one's consciousness goes away from Krishna, then the more one's senses become dulled by the material nature, and the more one's experience becomes dull. And the closer we get to Krishna, then the closer we get to real experience again. Unlimited, wonderful smells and tastes and touches and hearing and relationships and everything is all based upon our coming closer to Krishna. Now, the material nature is there to discourage us. Not because material nature particularly doesn't like us or is envious of us, and therefore it doesn't want us to become Krishna conscious. But Maya...
Maharaj, I am begging you, please slow down.
Okay. But Maya is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. And Maya wants to see whether in actually we want Krishna or we want something else. That we can actually develop Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, we can't develop intense devotional service unless we give up the things that distract us from devotional service. And since time immemorial, we've developed a taste for many things. Now we're fortunate, all of us, that we've also developed some taste for devotional service, and we have some idea that the goal of life is to obtain Krishna. At the same time, we're curious about what it's like to taste different material situations. And indeed, our modern education, our modern experience encourages us to try to experience the material nature to the fullest extent we can. So Krishna doesn't deny that. In other words, as long as we have some idea that there's some material arrangement that can make us happy, Krishna is willing to let us experience that and see if it actually makes us happy. And after becoming frustrated, then one may take shelter of Krishna in a more sincere way, crossing at least that experience or that methodology of becoming happy out, and eventually leaving us with only seeking happiness by serving Krishna. So that may take some experience. In other words, as our experience of Krishna consciousness expands, so does my offer different attractions to the devotee. But as those attractions, as one's Krishna consciousness expands, so does one's intelligence to decide whether or not to accept Maya's offerings or not. When Gopakumara was going through the universe in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it took him actually some time before he reached Krishna Loka. The commentators say that it took him actually lifetimes. Because although he was a devotee and he was interested in experiencing Krishna, especially he was chanting the Gopal mantra, and when he chanted the Gopal mantra, he actually saw Gopal. And he was very much attracted to Gopal. Especially Gopal, his attractive pastimes in Vrindavan as a cowherd boy, free cowherd boy, enjoying himself unlimitedly with his friends there. So he was attracted and he was always chanting the Gopal mantra that his spiritual master gave him. Still, he went from one part of the material universe to the next for many lifetimes, from becoming the king of Jagannath Puri to going to Indra Loka and becoming Indra for some time, to going to Maharaloka and becoming the head of the sacrifices there, to going to Janaloka and meeting the four Kumaras there and learning how to meditate on Krishna in its different forms, even to going to Brahmaloka, where he became Brahma for some time. But then repeatedly, he got the association of persons who are on a higher platform and wanted to experience what that was like, even to the point where he asked the four Vedas when he was Brahma, because when he was Brahma, he didn't have four heads. He still was a cowherd boy. He never wanted. He liked to be a cowherd boy wherever he was. But he asked the four Vedas about liberation because he had heard when the four Kumaras came, or some liberated person came to Brahmaloka, the glories of liberation. And indeed, he tried that out. He went to Brahman. He wasn't so attracted to it. Then he went to Shiva Loka, and he met Parvati and Lord Shiva and Ganesh and his devotees. They were always doing kirtan. But he wasn't satisfied. Therefore, eventually he qualified himself for Vaikuntha. And even when he was in Vaikuntha, after getting so much mercy from Krishna and his devotees, to get to Vaikuntha is not an ordinary thing. Still, he was morose. So Narada Muni was quite surprised. Narada Muni was always there, so many different places. And Uddhava was there also. And they thought, Gop Kumara, how is it that you're in Vaikuntha where everyone's happy, and you're practically the only person who's morose here? Something's wrong. So what's the problem? So Narada Muni, of course, he knows. He knew that Gop Kumara didn't actually belong in Vaikuntha, and he wouldn't be happy there. So he let him go, Lord Narayan, let him go to the next place, which happened to be Ramachandra's place in Ayodhya in the spiritual world. And there he was met by Hanuman and Sugriva, and all the monkey soldiers and there was Lakshman and Sita Devi and Lord Ramachandra, who's all merciful and beautiful. And for some time he stayed there in Ayodhya and served Lord Ramachandra. But still, he could observe that the playful pastimes of Krishna, Gopal, was not present in Ayodhya. And therefore, he was always feeling dissatisfied. Even in Ayodhya, there was something missing. So Lord Ramachandra, or Hanuman, said that I think Lord Ramachandra wanted him to go to Dwarka. So then Gopkumar went to Dwarka, but even in Dwarka, he wasn't happy. He got so much mercy to get to Dwarka to associate with Yadunandana, who's Krishna himself, but Krishna feeling separation from Vrindavan. Krishna is the king. So Gopkumar stayed there for some time. He was dressed as a cowherd boy. All the residents there are dressed as princes and princesses, and everyone was very opulent. So the residents there kept on telling him to change his dress. You look a little strange here as a cowherd boy. But Gopkumar was attached to his dress. He wouldn't give it up. And he was still dissatisfied. And there Krishna exhibited his different pastimes. Even with Gopkumar, sometimes he'd herd cows. But he was always in Dwarkaraj. Krishna is always unhappy also because he's not in Vrindavan. And all the residents of Dwarka know that Krishna is always feeling separation from Vrindavan. So Dwarkaraj Krishna eventually instructed Gopkumara to go to Vrindavan, to become qualified to go to Vrindavan. He came back to the earth planet again, to Vrindavan. Now, here is Gopkumar. He started as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, went all over the material universe and over the spiritual universes. And in order to get perfection, he wound up back in Vrindavan again, where he started from. But by that time, he had realized that there was nothing better than getting Krishna's mercy. He had already seen everything, and therefore all he wanted was to go to Vrindavan to be with Krishna in the spiritual world. It took experience. If his spiritual master would have told him that the spiritual master happened to be an expansion of Lord Narayan, but it would have told him to stay in Vrindavan, chant Hare Krishna, and eventually he'll get to Vrindavan. It probably wouldn't have worked because Gopkumar needed some experience. First of all, he didn't have any knowledge to begin with. He didn't even know about the Vedic culture. So he got experience of the Vedic culture, and gradually he got knowledge of both the material and spiritual universes. And then he realized that what he was missing, and the only thing that could make him happy, is simply his relationship with Gopal. Nothing else could ever make him happy, no material situation. And therefore he's qualified to completely fix his mind upon Gopal and with all his heart try to obtain Gopal. So when Gopal saw that, when Krishna saw that, then he gave him opportunity to come back to Vrindavan again. Then when Gopkumar's mind was completely fixed in separation from Krishna and love for Krishna, and Krishna sent the airplane that brought him to Vrindavan, where he met Gopal again. And of course, later on, Gopkumar, whose name is now Swarup, he instructs the Brahmin about his relation with Krishna and his experience. And that encourages the Brahmin to surrender to Krishna also, that he was just on the verge of surrendering. But due to his association with Swarup, therefore he became...
Maharaj, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please,
Okay. You have to slow up when we're telling pastimes. So due to that association with Sarup, he was completely overwhelmed with ecstasy. And then Krishna personally came and played with him. Actually, Krishna jumped on them. They played around for some while. And they were completely in ecstasy. And then they had no other desire but to go to the spiritual world. And then Krishna came with his cowherd boys and the cat, and then they went back to the spiritual world. Of course, as Gop Kumara said, that Gokula Vrindavan in this planet is not different from Goloka Vrindavan. Gop Kumara didn't see any difference when he was in Goloka Vrindavan or Gokul Vrindavan. The same loving pastimes he had with Krishna in both places. So the purport is, if we want Krishna's mercy, we just have to perform sadhana bhakti. And then gradually, as our experience of the material world matures, as we experience to the fullest extent necessary to become convinced that compared to devotional service and Krishna consciousness, that this material experience is not very valuable. Or as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vishaya vinivartate nirharasidehinam rasavarjam rasopyasya paramdrishva nivartate. That the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagement, experiencing a higher taste when it's fixed in consciousness. So while we're living in the material world, in whatever ashram we happen to be in, if we just follow the principles of that ashram and follow sadhana every day, then gradually our taste for Krishna will increase, and our attachment for material sense gratification will decrease. Now, that whether we're attached or unattached to sense gratification, still, in order to perform devotional service, we have to provide for the body a certain amount of sense gratification. Even if one is unattached to sense gratification, if one is performing devotional service, a certain amount of eating, sleeping, or even mating or defending is necessary. But the question is whether we're doing it to please Krishna or doing it to please our senses. If we're doing it to please Krishna, then we'll become unattached to not only the results, but the activity itself. Although one will certainly derive some happiness from that activity, whatever material happiness can be given to us. But if Krishna is added, compared to Krishna consciousness, it'll gradually seem rather insignificant comparison. Therefore, there are two different levels of different qualities of pure devotional service in sadhana bhakti. Who knows what the two qualities in sadhana bhakti of devotional service? Who is taking the Bhakti Shastri here?
It's one of them is it relieves you from suffering, kleshada, something like that. And the other, I forgot, it gives you bliss, something like that.
Subhada, yes, Yanadas.
Devotional service gives all auspiciousness.
Yes, Subhada, Kleshagni. It relieves material distress, it gives one all auspiciousness. So even in sadhana bhakti, what we're performing, if every day we could just chant Hare Krishna and japa, worship some deity in some form, read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita every day, serve devotees, even if it's our family members, and try to make our atmosphere in our home and hopefully in our friendships with others. And if we have the fortunate opportunity to do some preaching, tell others about Krishna, try to make the atmosphere spiritual. So if we're fortunate enough to do that, then gradually, as we learn how to fix our minds, as Krishna gives us the intelligence, how to take the very process of devotional service more seriously and not be distracted by so much worries that we have. Material life means simply so many worries, so many arrangements we have to make. So we have to make these arrangements, but we don't have to be worried about it. We have to organize our life in such a way that we have the minimum amount of things to worry about. If we worry about something, we should write it down on a piece of paper. And we have enough worries, and we can fill up the paper and then organize our life in such a way to try to fulfill what's actually necessary. That way we have room when we're chanting not to worry about these things, because we already organize our worries in such a way that we're going to take care of them. So when we're performing devotional service, we can fix our minds upon Krishna. And when Krishna sees that we're trying to fix our mind upon him, then he reciprocates. Then he reveals himself. Then in our attempts to fix our minds upon him, he reveals himself in such a way as we experience him. And the more we experience Krishna, the more we understand what Krishna consciousness means. There's no way of understanding Krishna consciousness without becoming conscious of Krishna. And if we're not becoming conscious, if we're not understanding that that's our goal, become conscious of Krishna, then what is our goal? Then we have some other goal. And to become conscious of Krishna means we have to get his special mercy. And to get his special mercy doesn't require a PhD in psychology. To get his special mercy means we have to hear from those who can tell us how to get his special mercy. And then we have to perform devotional service, because that's the means. With enthusiasm and with attention, with steadiness, with care and attention. And then Krishna will give us his special mercy. And as we remember Krishna more and more, we'll be able to feel his presence. Even if we don't see Krishna with our eyes, we can experience Krishna with our ears. If we chant Hare Krishna with all our heart and with all our mind, with all our attention, and with all the feeling we can have, positive feeling, then we can experience Krishna in his holy name, or holy names. And that will encourage us to read more, to serve more, and then Krishna's form will not become just a theory, it will become part of our existence. That's why we have deities of Krishna. Now Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he's the light, the sun and the moon, he's the taste and water, so many different things. But we don't put water on the altar and worship it. We don't put lights. You don't come to a Hare Krishna temple and there's just a light show. And then underneath the light show, there's a little sign, a little explanation. Krishna says he's the light in the sun and the moon. So this is how we worship Krishna. No, Krishna has a form also. It's true that from Krishna, these different energies are coming, but ultimately we appreciate these energies because they're coming from Krishna, person who has a form and has relationships. Not only with Srimati Radharani and all the residents of Vrindavan, but he has a relationship with each one of us eternally. And we're trying to get his special mercy so we can understand what our relationship with him is and how to make it better. And he tells us how to do it. He's not asking for a lot. Offer our prasadam, chant our rounds, serve the devotees. offer him a little water. We have a picture of the deities, etc. They're all there in sadhana bhakti, and it's not complicated. But we have to think that this is important and do it every day, and then gradually we'll make progress. It's not something we do at the end of our life. It's something we do. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtana. If we're serious about our relation with Krishna, then we have to be serious about our sadhana bhakti. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
We hear about all kinds of great devotees who left materialistic life, like Sanatan, Rupa Sanatan, and Yamuna Acharya. He writes, if I think of a woman, I spit in this, he's disgusted by it. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't want Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavitam Vajagadishakam. But all these personalities, they are actually, Yamuna Acharya was a great king, and Rupa Sanatan were like billionaires, something like that. So they had a position that they already had enough of the material world. They experienced it to the highest extent, and then they left it. So how are we expected to leave the material world just like them when we are nothing, like we never experienced such a thing like kingdom or something like that, and then it's easy to retire, you know.
Really? Okay. Well, I guess Krishna will give you that opportunity if you still think that maybe that will make you happy, or any of us. Whatever we think will make us happy, Krishna will allow it. Either grossly or subtly, he'll give us some experience like that. So if you want to become a king or a demigod or whatever, then that opportunity is there. Krishna will provide it for you if you're sincere and want to and experience it enough that you become qualified to do so. But in the same time, kama sava karma va moksha kamudaradi tivrenit bhakti yogena tivreta purusha para. Still, it's advised that we take sadhana bhakti seriously, so that hopefully the experience of Krishna and our relation with Krishna will nullify and surpass any desire we have from the material world, at least some of them, so to save so much time. But if we're convinced that I must experience this material desire, then there's very little Krishna can do for us, except to give us the experience, because through the experience, we can see whether or not it's actually what I'm really looking for or not. So it's always advised that we're cautious what we desire, but we can only Krishna wants us to cultivate, at least along with our attempts to fulfill our material desires. He wants us to cultivate devotional service at the same time, so that maybe we can understand, we've become intelligent enough to understand what's the difference between material desire and spiritual desire, make the correct choices. But that may take some time. In any case, we're not here in the material world by accident. We didn't come, most of us didn't come here because we were avatars. We only came to serve the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have other desires too, so. Therefore, even while we're doing devotional service, still, Krishna is providing us for food. He's not demanding we become one of the 6 Goswamis and eating a little pat of buttermilk every other day, sleeping 1 hour, sometimes not at all. Everything is there. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada has given us a process of sadhana bhakti for which we can cultivate an attachment for Krishna simultaneously, along with fulfilling whatever material desires we think are necessary. Gyanadas?
Thank you, Mara.
Hare Krishna. Krishna doesn't ask a lot from us, but why do we feel that this is so much?
Krishna doesn't ask a lot from us. Well, I don't know, depending what your position is. When Krishna says, give up all varieties of religion and surrender to me, some people may find it too much. But if someone doesn't find it very much, too much, that's good. But then we have to actually do it. To talk about how easy it is one thing. To actually do it is something else. For one thing, we don't know all the varieties of efforts we're making in so many different directions in the material world, either to be happy or to seek shelter, avoid being unhappy. So therefore, when Krishna says, give up everything and surrender to me, it's not so easy. Otherwise, we would have done it long ago. Therefore, we have to follow a process of doing that. And generally speaking, we need this good association, because otherwise, if we don't have good association, our minds tell us that we're already practically there, but we don't know where we are actually. Only by association with pure devotees through Prabhupada's books and other more experienced devotees can we actually understand what is our actual position, so that we can go forward to actually real surrender to Krishna. Otherwise, if devotional service was so easy, we wouldn't be here. We'd all be in the spiritual world right now. But if it was so easy, as Krishna told the gopis, then no one would take Krishna very seriously. They think, oh, Krishna is so easy to obtain. Why should we bother taking him so seriously? Therefore, we have to develop a desire to serve Krishna. And that will be manifested in our actual activities, not just in our assumption that we're pure devotees. Thank you for your question. Anything else?
Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna. There is a question in the chat.
Okay. Indira can ask the question first, and then we'll ask the question. You still have your hand up, Gyanadas. Is that all right? Yes, Indira.
Шрила Гурудев, скажите, пожалуйста, вот Друва Махарадж, он, когда увидел Господа, он был готов предаться? Он же сказал, что я искал осколки стекла, нашел бриллиант. Но так как до этого у него были материальные желания, он хотел вот царство получить, Господь ему все равно сказал, что ты сначала вот поцарствуй, а потом вернешься. То есть получается, даже если мы готовы отказаться от наших желаний, это не так-то просто сделать.
So in the example of the Dhruva Maharaj was ready to give up everything and surrender to the Lord. He tells him that I was looking for the broken glass, but I found the diamond. So, but still Krishna insisted that Dhruva Maharaj will get the kingdom that he was asking for, and he will get to live through that experience being the king. So even if we are ready to surrender, looks like those previous desires are not that easy to get out of.
Well, Dhruva Maharaj didn't have any desire. He was put into Dhruva Loka, which is the spiritual planet. So it's not a bad thing. It's not that he suddenly had some material desire now. He's serving Krishna in Dhruva Loka. But Dhruva went through so much effort to get a kingdom greater than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. So Krishna wanted to reciprocate with him. After all, his effort should be rewarded. He went through such effort. Otherwise, Krishna, if he would say, well, it doesn't really matter what you did, sorry, you're not going to get what you wanted. Well, Krishna gave him what he wanted, but he gave him full consciousness of Krishna also. So there's no loss in Dhruva Maharaj. who's all eternally associating with Krishna in Dhruva Loka. December is Srila Prabhupada's book marathon. Will you please say something for inspiration about it? To Jordan, to everyone. So, is Jordan here? Jordan. Well, any way we can assist in this is transcendental knowledge. We're speaking transcendental knowledge. We're trying to live transcendental knowledge. So and by that transcendental knowledge, we're trying to come to the spiritual platform. But the spiritual platform means Madhyama Adhikari is the beginning of spiritual platform. We may not be liberated in the sense we don't fully understand that we're eternal, but to speak of eternal servants of Krishna. But we have that understanding, and we're trying to, at least part of our lives, apply that. So that means that we have our sadhana where we're trying to serve Krishna, and we have our services where we're trying to serve Krishna, to develop love for him, experience of him. Experience of Krishna and love for him are non-different. And Krishna has given us the association of devotees to help that service and to help understand how to develop our love and our relation with Krishna through service. But he's also given us innocent people to deal with. Now, in the relation with devotees, for instance, there are 3 levels. There are those who are superiors, and we have to learn how to, in some way, and we have to learn how to appreciate their superiority in devotional service in some ways, especially in their relationship with other devotees. They may be more intimate and more deep and more loving, and their strictness in following the principles of devotional service given by our acharyas. So there are superiors, and they're imbibing some of the qualities and the same message of Srila Prabhupada. So we learn from them and we serve them. But then we have our equals, the people who can walk together with us, who don't find us in awe and reverence, who can be honest with us and point out our shortcomings, and we can appreciate that and try to make some improvement. And we can assist them also in a supportive way in their development of Krishna consciousness. But then we need our subordinates also, where we can pour out whatever mercy we can on them that we've received in the form of example and instructions, so that we're inspired. We're inspired to be a good example and to relate to others what we've learned from our experience, to help them elevate themselves personally. So within the society of devotees, there are innocents in relation to us. But then there's a vast number of people in the material world who potentially are devotees, but simply need the association of devotees, especially Srila Prabhupada's association in the form of these books. So as a service to our superiors and a cooperation with our equals, we try to fulfill Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, which is what all superior devotees are trying to do, by giving innocent people transcendental knowledge in the form of these books. So in any way we can assist, either by personally going and distributing them, or going in Harinam with a party, or donating money for the books, sponsoring them, somehow or another, packing lunches for the devotees, somehow or another assist them, then we're connected with the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his desire. Because he loves everyone. He wants everyone to at least have the opportunity to make spiritual advancement. And that will come through these books. Because it's not only the books we're trying to distribute, hopefully that we have some means of enabling people who get these books to take advantage of them and come into the association of devotees, so that they can actually they learn how to apply these books in their lives. But book distribution is the beginning. But we also need a society of devotees who manifest what's in the books and instruct others to similarly manifest what's in their books in their lives in order to actually create the transcendent, the cultural revolution that Prabhupada envisioned. That can change actually human society into a spiritual society, at least part of it into a spiritual society. So there's an opportunity. I heard in one lecture recently that Prabhupada said that if you chant Hare Krishna, then the sound vibration goes around the world eternally. Generally, an ordinary sound vibration goes around the world 7 times, but the Hare Krishna mantra goes around the world eternally. Similarly, this book distribution is a pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if we take part in it, then it has eternal benefit for us and for those we come in contact with. So I think we'll stop there. Thank you very much. Grandiraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Prahladananda Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna, Jai Gaur
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna, everyone.